Okay, so yeah, this is more of an Italian style, I guess, of cooking. But you can do any sort of rice pudding, any sort of flavor that you want. I start off just a large pan or medium pan, and I put a little bit of coconut oil before. We don't usually use coconut oil in the kitchen, but
You wanted to use
we wanted to try it. So the coconut oil is nice.
What else could you use?
Again, you can use butter if you want, a little higher in fat. If you want to use oil, probably go with a neutral oil. So try maybe a grapeseed oil. Grapeseed oil doesn't have any flavor. It has a nice neutral taste. Olive oil with the sweet.
You'd have an olive-y dessert.
Might win over some people. Might not taste the greatest. So, and just medium heat, and then we can add our rice. So I have actually a little bit of arborio rice. So this is your typical risotto rice, and half of the steel cut oats. You can do either or. I like the mix of them together because I like to see the two together and the different textures. And again, like Christy said, if you can't, do the fiber, then probably go for all rice.
Yeah, if people especially have a tiny appetite.
So what we want to do, and again, it's kind of like making risotto. I know sometimes risotto can be intimidating, but I just want to toast the steel cut oats and that arborio rice a little bit in that pan.
You're going to get a nutty flavor once you kind of toast grains a little bit before you add the liquid. It's something I like to do even in my rice cooker. I kind of toast everything before I add the water in, and the flavor difference is wonderful.
And this is vanilla. We're doing our vanilla steel cut oat rice pudding here. So I have a vanilla bean. If you can't find the vanilla beans, they're in most grocery stores now, but pure vanilla extract will work just fine. And what we do with the vanilla bean is just get a knife, run it down, and split it open. And that kind of exposes all of the seeds inside. And then just use the back of that knife on the inside of that pod and just run it until you get all that goodness, all those seeds in there. And that's where most of that vanilla flavor is. So we're going to scrape all that, and that's going to go into the rice. And the pod, which still has some nice flavor, is going to go into our simmering milk. Now I'm using 2% milk here. Again, if you wanted a little bit more fat, you want to kick up the calories, go for full whole milk, or you can do cream even if you needed more fat.
Or if you want a super light one, you could go for skim milk in this recipe.
Yeah, or dairy-free as well, like an almond milk would work, or coconut milk would work really, really good. And that's just on a simmer. You don't want to burn milk, especially if you're using a lower fat one. It'll curdle if you start to overboil it. So just low heat, just a simmer. So we have our vanilla. Can you guys smell the vanilla now? I don't know if
Smells incredible.
it's punching me in the face. So just toast it, just again, a couple minutes, and then we can slowly start to add our liquid. Use a ladle. And just a little bit at a time.
Now, Jeremy, what would happen if you wanted to put everything in at once and just speed it up?
Absolutely. So you can put it all in at once, reduce it to a simmer, and stir every once in a while. The reason you do this method is because the grains like the rice, even a little bit from the steel cut oat, as you cook it with a little bit of liquid and stir it, it releases its starches, and that's what gives it that creaminess, that kind of that mouthfeel that is really enjoyable in like a risotto dish. So that's the reason why. And this is the part I think that's intimidating because no one wants to be at the stove all the time. I mean, this cooks in about 20-25 minutes. And again, it's a nice one, 20-25 minutes. This is a great one to freeze. This is an excellent one to freeze and store, and then you can warm it up after as a nice little treat. So just a little bit of liquid at a time until it absorbs, and you'll see it start to bubble, and then you add a little bit more liquid until it's done. You can finish it off with a little bit of yogurt at the end. I like the cold and the hot. So this, if I grew up on rice pudding, this is probably what my mom or grandmother would do, is just a little bit of ricotta cheese. This is just a lower fat ricotta cheese with a little bit of honey. And again, just a little bit on top.
Some different textures and different flavors and boost up the nutrition as well. And again, you could always go for a higher fat option if you wanted to, or a higher fat yogurt would work.
Yeah, and just a few blueberries, or a lot of blueberries. And that's it. I mean, that's a pretty, tasty, fancy dessert for, regular old rice pudding. That's it. That's the last recipe. That's dessert.